I want to talk to you today, and my voice is getting a little weak, so if you just bear with me, but I want to talk to you about this idea of the test of life. I think in life we all go through testing, we all go through hard times, we all go through trials, but really when we start in life, how many of you know like the first thing in life, you start being tested? As soon as you come out of the baby, like as a baby, you're being tested. They used to smack you on the bottom. I was corrected that they don't do that anymore. That's not politically correct anymore. So I think they like tickle people or tell them a little joke or something like that. You know, I don't know what they do anymore. And I have to admit, I'm not a parent yet, so I don't really know what is expected of children. So people be like, yeah, you see my baby, they did this thing. And I'm like, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Like, I don't really know what's normal. Are they supposed to be talking right now? Are they not supposed to be talking right now? Like, I'm like, oh, they're 6 months, they're talking. Isn't that normal? And they're like, no, it's not normal. It's not normal. But we go through all these tests. You go through tests in school. You go through all these different tests, driving tests, all these different things. And what I've come to realize is that we don't like taking tests. Like, anybody don't like taking tests? Anybody don't like taking tests? How many of you like taking tests? Just me? Okay. Right here, somebody's like, I like showing people I'm smart. That's what Steve-O. And people, we don't like taking tests, but we like using things that have been tested, right? Like we wouldn't want to use something that has not been tested and has not been proven that it can do what it says it can do. So I found this, me and my wife, we went to Cancun a couple years ago for our honeymoon, and I wanted to take some pictures, and I was going to use my phone. And but how many of you know, as amazing as iPhones are, these things are a little delicate. You know, they're a little sensitive. You got to take care of them, and they're very, very expensive. And so when I was like, I want to take some pictures, but I don't want to mess up my phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, this thing's very important to me. It costs a lot of money. I do not want to mess it up. And so I went down to the little lobby market in our hotel, and there was these cases, these bags that claim to be waterproof bags for your iPhone. And last service, I was talking about this, and a girl actually had one, and she lifted it up. But it was like basically a beefed up Ziploc bag, and it's saying that it's going to be waterproof and that it's going to protect my $1,000 iPhone. And I'm like, I bought it. It was only $20, and I'm like, I want it to work, but I don't know if it's going to work. Like, how many of you been there before? You bought something. Like, how many of you buy that as seen on TV stuff? Anybody been there before? You buy that stuff and you know it's not going to work. Like, let's be honest. You know it's not going to work, but you just buy it hoping. My dad, Pastor Jonathan Suber, the bishop, loves as seen on TV products. Like, and I'm like, Dad, you know, like, he'll buy these beard trimmers and they're like $5 and like they're all plastic. And I'm like, that's just going to pull your beard out. And he's like, no, it said miraculous. There's a laser pointer that's going to come down. And I was just like, no, it's not. But there's an aisle in Walgreens that when he goes in Walgreens, it's go time for him. Like, he is getting as seen on TV. But we see this as seen on TV stuff, and we know it's probably not going to work. And that's how I felt like with this little bag, with this little iPhone thing. So I put my phone in it, and I was like, I'm going to test it out in the pool first, because we're not ready to go to the ocean. Like, we're not that big time yet. We go into the pool. So I tested it, and I put it in the bag, and I zipped it up, and I kind of just did like a quick little, just a whoop, like a little dip. You know, just a little whoop. And I looked and I was like, okay, it's still working and messing with it. And then I was like, I'm going to jump in the pool with it. So I jumped in the pool with it and it kept working. And I was like, man, this thing it's actually working pretty good. And so by the end of the trip, like I was going through, like, we went to this place called Explore, which is this amazing adventure park. And I'm like literally like zip lining down a zip line into a waterfall, taking pictures like, yeah, like, it's waterproof. I can do anything. This waterproof bag. And it was amazing because it was waterproof. Like, it actually did what it said it can do. You know, like it was proven that what it said was really what it could do. And I think so often in times in life, we want it to be said about us that we can do things, but we don't want to go through the test to prove that we can actually do those things. We don't want it to actually be proven that, hey, I know that you say you're a person filled with faith, but if you're going to be a person filled with faith, you're going to have to go through some struggle. Like, you're going to have to go through some hard times and believe for God to come through. And so I think we would never use products that said they did something, but then when we find out, we would realize that it was a fake. So if I would have dipped my phone in the pool and now my phone would have gotten wet, I would have never used it past that point. I would have been like, okay, I messed up. I wasted my money as seen on TV. I would have given it to my dad and he would have loved it. Like, it would have been great. But I would have never used it past that point because it couldn't do what it said it could do. And I think there are many of you, just like I'm kind of joking about my iPhone being in that bag and that iPhone being valuable, there are many of you where you are so valuable. Like, every person in this room is valuable. You have things in your life that God has put inside of you, dreams and visions and destinies and callings and skills and abilities and relationships. So many of you have so many great things that God has put on the inside of you. But before he can put his stamp of approval on you, he's got to take you through some tests. He's got to take you through some tests so that you can know for yourself and for other people that you can make it through. Because I don't think God has to ask us if we're going to make it through. I think God knows that we're going to make it through. But I think we don't know if we're going to make it through. And so when you go through a struggle as a young person and you don't have a lot of money, it may be a test so that later down the line, when you're going through a struggle and you have a business and you have employees and all these same things, you can say, hey, I trusted God with my finances before. I can trust him with it now. It's a test so that you can know God's going to come through. It's a test. And so you got to prove that you can handle it. God's going to require things from us at every level. Before we go to the next level, God is going to require things from us. And that's what I love about what's happening here at Oasis. And you know, sometimes we make little jokes about our auditorium, that sort of thing. We got 3 services. I think we're going to maybe start a 4th service soon, maybe something crazy. I don't know. But we kind of talk about this sometimes. And some of you just like, oh gosh, again, are we doing this again? But we talk about this, but I'm so thankful for what we are doing at this level, because we are learning things and we are developing things at this level that will help us at the next level. As a church, as we grow and as more people are saved and as more people are discipled and as we do more things to affect our community and serve our city, as we do more and more things, if we don't learn some things now, when we get those opportunities, we won't be able to step into them. And if we don't prove some things to ourselves, if we don't prove some things that we can make it through this, we can conquer this task, we can do this. And I don't think that we need to just ask for God to take us out of something, that God just remove us from this thing, but we need to learn the lesson in it. We need to learn that God has something for us, that he's not trying to press us down, that he's not trying to beat us up, that he's not trying to be heavy on us, but that he has something for us. I know you want me to get the Bible, so I'm there. You ready for it? James chapter 1. Some of you are like, when's this guy going to read the Bible? James chapter 1. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Hey, be happy when your life is bad. Like, be happy when you're going through hard times. Be happy when your kids are crazy, you know, be happy when your wife is driving you crazy. You know what I'm saying? Probably the other way around. Us husbands are pretty crazy. So sorry to all the wives out there. We working on it. We really trying our best, but be happy when you face all these trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So you don't get perseverance unless you're tested. Like you don't get the perseverance of your faith unless you first go through the testing. I want you to really pay attention to this next verse. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. See, I think many times we think God is taking us through a test, or God is taking us through something to take something away from us. That God is trying to remove something from our life, that God's trying to beat up on us, that God's trying to punish us. Come on, anybody thought that before? God's just taking me through this. God's trying to punish me for what I've been through, all these different things. But I would say that God is not trying to crush you. God is not trying to put you down. God is not trying to punish you. He's trying to complete you. He's trying to build you up. He's trying to build some character in your life, some integrity in your life. He's trying to make sure that you have the education that you need at the next level, that you have the relationships that you need at the next level. I think it would be interesting if we were in school and we had teachers that would just begin to teach random things and not know what was needed at the next grade. Like, imagine if you were in 6th grade and your teacher had no idea what you needed in 7th grade. And so they just begin to teach all these random different things. You'll be like, why am I learning all this stuff? And then you get to the next grade and you're like, okay, none of that I just learned is helping me right now. Like I was not prepared for what I'm stepping into. But the flip side of that is you may have a teacher that knows exactly what you need to learn. And you as the student, you may say, why are we learning this over here? And why are we learning this over here? And why are we going through all these things? Why are we doing all these things? Why are we learning this? And then when you get to the next grade, you're like, oh, that's why you made me do that. That's why you made me go through that. I had teachers when I was in high school that I literally went back to and I was like, thank you for making that really hard, because if you would not have been hard at that grade, I would not be able to pass this next grade. And so why do we think that God is putting all these random things in our life? God, why am I going through this? And why am I having this relationship issue? And why am I having this issue in my business? And God, you're just putting all these random things in my life and I don't understand it. Could it be that at the next level, at your next promotion, when you get that relationship, when you do find your spouse, when you do have kids, when you step into that thing, could it be that you're going to begin to realize that God works all things together for his good? Come on, for the glory of God, that he works it all together so that you can pass the test, so that you can pass the test. So it's a test. And I just came to encourage you today, wherever you are in life, whatever you're going through, that you have to realize that it's just a test, that you're going to make it through it, that God has not abandoned you, that he has not forgotten you, that he has not forsaken you, that he has not left you high and dry. It's just a test. When I was in high school, a lot of my friends and people in my school, they did not go to school for school, if you know what I mean. They went to school to sell agricultural products. Come on, anybody catch my drift? They were street pharmacists. That's what their focus at school was. And so I had a lot of friends like that, and they never paid any attention to school. And so normally what happened is the teacher would put a test or a Scantron or something in front of us, and there would always be the same question. Is this a test? And just, what? Is this a test? Oh, come on, is this a test? And yes, it's a test. I told you 3 weeks ago, it's been on the board. Why don't you ever pay attention? I know you're working on other stuff right now, but you need to be working on your schoolwork. It's a test. It's a test. And I think when we ask ourselves, is this a test? As humans, we are trying to find the answer to the test. So if you're in a test right now, I would almost guarantee that you're trying to find the answer to this test. What prayer do I pray? Who do I talk to? Who do I give money to? What book do I have to read? What podcast do I have to listen to? What do I have to do to get the answers to this test? But I think it's not so much about you getting the answer to the test, because did you know God knows all things? Did you know that God knows the end from the beginning? That he's the Alpha and the Omega. The Bible says that he is omniscient. Like he doesn't need you to give him the answer to your problem. So I don't think it's so much about finding the answer to the test. It's about your attitude. How are you going to respond in the test? How are you going to respond to what God is taking you through? Are you going to get mad at him? Are you going to feel like, God, I knew that this whole God thing wasn't real. I put my faith in him and now he's left me. Now he's forsaken me. Are you going to respond in that way? Or are you going to say, God, I know it's hard right now, but I'm trusting in you? It's a test. I want to bring your attention to John chapter 6. This is where Jesus is getting ready to feed a multitude of people. And there's a lot of people that need to be fed. And they forgot to schedule the Chick-fil-A catering. Nobody's got no Lunchables. Nothing's going on. And so they need to feed a lot of people. And the disciples come to Jesus looking for the solution to the question. And many of us come to Jesus looking for the answer. Maybe you're here today and you're looking for an answer. There's a problem in your life, and that's why you ended up at Oasis Church, is you need an answer from God. And so they come to Jesus, but this is what Jesus does. He looked up and he saw a great crowd coming towards him. He said, Philip, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? Now, do you think Jesus actually needed to know where the bread store was? Like, hey, is there an HEB around here? Come on, we got a Walmart. Anybody got let's do a pickup order. Come on, can you do it online? Can they deliver it? We got Uber Eats. Like, come on, what's the options, Jesus? What are we doing? What's the answer? Where shall we buy bread? And I love this. It says, he asked this only to test him, for he already had in his mind what he was going to do. And some of you need to realize that God already has in his mind what he's about to do in your life. He already has in his mind the blessing that he's about to bring in your life. He already has the person that he's about to bring in your life. He already has the answer to the question. He's just looking to see, how are you going to respond to the test. What's your attitude going to be? Are you going to trust in him or not? So there's 3 different tests, and maybe you've heard this before. Other preachers have preached this, but I just want to encourage you with this today, that there are 3 different tests that I believe that you're going to face in life. There's a lot of different tests, but I think these 3 are prominent for what's going on in the world today. The first one is the test of small things. The test of small things. How are you going to respond when you are working with something small? Like I know you want to pray for more. I know we want to ask for more because that's America. That's what we do. More. I need a bigger house. I need more cars. I need more money. I need more phones. I need a bigger TV. More. We always need more. But how are you going to respond to the things that you do have? Like what are you going to do with the finances that you do have? I think it's so interesting. People always talk about, well, when I start making a lot of money, then I'm going to give to God. And I'm like, if you're not tithing on $100, what makes you think you're going to tithe on $100,000? If you're not doing it in the small things, you always see this with people that win the lottery. Pastor, if I win the lottery, I'm going to tithe that money right there. No, you're not. Because you're not doing it right now. Why would you do with more what you're not doing with little right now? We know that David was a master of the small things. David was in private and he was practicing all the things that he would need one day, was practicing when no one else was watching. So he was practicing his skills as a musician. One day he would be called upon to play music for the king of the whole kingdom. Now, why would he wait until he was called on to be the musician for the whole king's court? Why would he start practicing guitar then? He had to start practicing guitar in the small moments, in the little moments. So many people, they want, God, I'll really start to do this when you give me an opportunity. I like to put it this way. When you give me a platform, God, then I'll really start to serve you with this thing. Then I'll really start to do this. But why would you do on a platform? Why would you do in public what you're not doing in private? Why would you do at an elevated thing where everybody can see you, everybody can watch you fail, everybody knows whether you're good or not? Why would you do it then if you're not even doing it in private? It's one of the things I love about my wife, Hannah, that one of the earliest memories I have of meeting her, she was leading worship in a small group of about 5 people. We were having a prayer meeting at a church that we were both a part of, and she was playing keyboard and singing, and she was leading with so much passion. And then I've seen her to go on to do so many things of where she has had opportunities to sing in churches of tens of thousands of people. She's been on TV networks of millions and millions of viewers. And I'm not doing that to hype her up. I'm just saying she was doing the same thing with 5 people that she was doing with millions and millions of people watching. So we have to develop in private. We have to look at, before God can put his stamp of approval on us, we need to be approved in private. We need God's approval. We need to say, hey, I know that I'm doing this right now. I am fulfilled right now. I don't ever need a bigger platform than what I'm doing right now. And that's when God will begin to elevate you. Before I stepped on stage, like 2 seconds, that's why I was kind of late getting up here. Pastor Stephanie said, everybody wants to teach and preach. And we have opportunities every week to teach the children that are going to go on to be the leaders and change the world. We have 3 services. We have a couple hundred kids every week that people have an opportunity to teach. But it's the hardest thing finding teachers for the kids ministry. So it's like everybody wants a platform. They want to teach people that can serve them and people that will give them a notoriety, but they don't want to teach people that are going to go on to change the world in a couple years. So what are you doing in private? David was a master of the small things. He was tending the sheep. Many of you know the story. I won't spend too much time on it, but even if you've never been to church before, you heard the story of David and Goliath. I mean, it's just a classic story. And we know that David was in the field and that he killed a lion, that he killed a bear. And so then when he got to his brothers, because everyone else went off to fight the battle and David was left behind because he was kind of the runt of the family. No one ever saw him as something great. No one ever thought that he could do something great. Some of you have been in the same situation with your family where you kind of outcast. And so they say, David, hey, we need you to take these little Lunchables, some cheese and crackers, take this charcuterie board and go out to your brothers out on the battlefield. And we need you to feed your brothers and then just come back to tending the sheep. And when he got out there, he saw a 9-foot test. See, he had the test of the lion, the test of the bear, and now there was another test. And so with the authority of someone who's been approved in private, he begins to speak out and begin to say, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that's coming against the army of the Lord? Like, that's strong words right there. That's fighting words right there. He's like, who is this guy? Like, y'all really scared of this? Like, we're the army of God. Like, we got angels on our side. Are you really scared of this guy? And they're like, all right, David, like, we know you like a shepherd, like you ain't from around here. Like, we get it. Like, you a boy and everything, but just let the men handle this. You know what I'm saying? Like, just kind of go back to what you're doing. And he begins to remember, no. If God was with me with the lion, if God was with me with the bear, what makes me think that God is going to abandon me with a giant? Some of you have been through so many things, and you need to begin to recall the times when God was there for you, the times when God came through, the time when you didn't understand how it happened or why it happened or if it's ever going to happen again, but it happened. You need to call back and say, it happened then. What makes me think it's not going to happen this time? So we got to have this private. Luke chapter 16, very well-known verse. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. You got to be faithful in the small things. Some of you maybe even need to take this as a word in your business or on your job. I know you want to be the boss. I know you want to have the corner office, but are you being faithful in the small things? Because if you're being dishonest in your business dealings now, the word says that you're going to be dishonest in the future. And so you need to begin to watch the small things. The next one is the test of the wilderness. The test of the wilderness. And I know when I say wilderness, because we got some church people at Oasis, I know you're just like, I'm just in a dry place, Lord, and I just need the healing rain of the Lord. Come on, like the healing balm of his presence just to come over me, Jesus. I'm just in a dry place. Just fill me up, God. Like rain down all around the world we're singing. Nobody? You didn't grow up in church? It's okay. Some of you like, no, we did. You just sound horrible. It's okay. This is what happens when you come to the 12 o'clock service. I'm hot. I got a lot of energy drink in me, and it's just what happens. So if you want the calm version of Alex, come to the 9 o'clock because I'm not quite awake yet. So I'm just now waking up. But it's like I'm just in this dry place, and I need God. But I think we get it wrong a little bit. Because I think when we're in a dry place and we're in a desert, we're asking God to take us out of this place, God. Remove me from this situation. Remove me from this place. Help me to get, God, I just need you to deliver me. Lord, I call down all this stuff. And God wants to remind you of all that he's already delivered you from. See, I think sometimes we forget God already died for us. Like Jesus already died for my sins. He's already sent me the promise of the Holy Spirit. He's already given me power over death, hell, and the grave. Jesus has already done a lot for me before I ever ask him for anything else. I love the song we started singing around here that I'm sorry for coming to you for blessings. I don't want to come to you for a blessing. I just want to come to you because of what you've already done for me. And so we say, God, I just need you to take me out of this. But when we look at the children of Israel, which is normally where we go when we talk about wilderness. The children of Israel, if you don't know the story, were slaves for 400 years under the Egyptian kingdom. And they had a promise from God that they were the children of, the children of God, that they were the promised people, the blessed people of God, but they had been slaves for 400 years. And then through miraculous circumstances, God delivers them out of slavery. And not only delivers them out of slavery, they leave with like money. Like the Egyptians are like, take our gold, take our rubies, like take our money, please leave. And in one night, 5 to 6 million people literally walk out of a city and leave. And they're like, we're done. We're not slaves. We're delivered from this. But then they go into the wilderness, and the wilderness is an interesting situation because if you don't know this, and I didn't know this when I was younger, I hear all the time about, children of Israel in the desert, in the wilderness. I was like, what? Just must have been a big desert. You had to walk for a long time to get across the desert. Like, they didn't have cars and that sort of thing. But did you know it should have only taken them a couple weeks journey to make it through the wilderness? It should have only taken them a short amount of time to make it through the wilderness. But in that short amount of time, they begin to go back and worship false idols. They begin to go back and say, well, I know we were slaves in Egypt, but I'd kind of rather be a slave than be out here in the desert. Like I'd kind of be back where at least I know I'm going to get whipped, but at least I know I'm going to be fed. At least I know because I feel comfortable in that. I feel comfortable where I've come from. And this is real uncertain out here, like trusting in God, and there's like a fire in the sky, and like, oh, it's a crazy story. You got to read it. It's just like crazy. And so it's like, I don't really know if I want to trust God in this situation. And so the old saying goes that they had got out of Egypt, but Egypt hadn't got it out of them. That they were acting more like the Egyptians than they were the children of God. And so the reason they were in the wilderness is because God was saying, I can't deliver you out of this. I've already delivered you out of the hands of the captor. I've already delivered you out of Egypt. Now what you have to do is you have to change some things. And see, that's the hardest thing for us Christians to think about, because we want to talk about God, deliver me and save me, and God, you're going to do all this for me. But what happens when we got to do something? Because see, we always want to just be miraculously supernatural. God, I want you to supernaturally erase the debt in my bank account. I speak the word of God right now. I'm going to anoint my checkbook right now. Come on, student loans, be gone in Jesus' name. It's like, no, you might need a budget and not go out to eat every meal, and like not buy a new car every 2 years. Like you might have to do some things. And I know that's not really, some of you like, I really like this preacher until that. I don't know if I like this church anymore. But you might have to do some things. And what God was trying to show them is that while they were in the wilderness, there were some things that they had to work out before they could go into their promised land. Because in the promised land, there were going to be more tests. There were going to be people coming against them. There were going to be people that were stronger than them, better armies, more sophisticated, all these different things. And so if they didn't trust God for their to sustain them in the wilderness, then they wouldn't have trusted him when they were going through all these battles. And so God is saying there's some things that he's trying to develop you in the wilderness. That there's some things that you need to change, some things that you have to work out. Because if not, we'll just keep going back to where we're comfortable. I think it's sad that when you look at our prison system and those that have been incarcerated, and we have so many men and women that have come out of incarceration and here at Oasis and done incredible things. We're working on some prison ministry, trying to get into the Austin Correctional Facility, so many incredible things. But one of the travesties is that 83% of people who are incarcerated will be reincarcerated within 9 years. 83%. More of that, or the majority of that within 3 years, but 83% within 9 years. And even though many of them, if you were to ask them, do you want to be free? Like, do you want to be a free person? Do you want to go back to your family? Do you want to do all these things? They would say, yes, of course. As people, we always want to be free. But sometimes we can be so comfortable with our captivity. Sometimes we can be so comfortable in our chains. Sometimes we can be so comfortable of it's bad, but at least I know this. And I've spoken with people that have been in this system before, so I can say this. At least it's bad. At least I know I'm locked up, but at least I know how being locked up works. Because I don't know how to operate out here anymore. Like I've been locked up for 10 years, 20 years, whatever it may be. I don't know how to operate out here anymore. So I'd rather go back to what I know. I'd rather go back to what's comfortable to me. And there are many people, maybe you're not incarcerated, but maybe you're bound up in addictions. And you know the addiction is tearing you apart and it's busting up your family and all these different things, but at least you know that. Like you don't know what it's like to be sober. Like you don't know what it's like to go through the stresses of life sober. Maybe for you, you're in a toxic relationship and you know that relationship is taking you down. Maybe that relationship is even physically and verbally and all types of abusive. You know it's messed up, but you say, well, I don't really know what's coming next. So I'd rather deal with this crazy than not know what kind of crazy is coming. Because we get comfortable with it. So we can get so comfortable in our captivity. You know it's wrong, but you keep wondering. You keep going around the same thing over and over and over again. See, the children of Israel, they just made a lap. For 40 years, they just walked in a circle. And it would take them a while to get around the circle. It wasn't like they walked it every day. But can you imagine for 40 years going past the same rock, the same tree? Hey, that's where we made the fire the last time. Hey, there's my canteen. I left it there last time, man. I'm glad I found that thing. Going around the same issues over and over and over and over and over until an entire generation of people passed away. And you're like, man, well, that's crazy. I never do that. But maybe for you, you keep going around that same addiction over and over and over. You thought you left it in your teens. You thought you left it in college. Now here it comes around again. You thought you left it in your 20s, and here it comes around again. You thought you left it in your 30s, and here it comes around again. For 40 years, they went through the same thing. You know, I thought I got over that mindset last year. You know, I thought I had breakthrough in our time of prayer and fasting last year. And now I'm struggling again. You know, I knew this year was going to be the year that I was going to start to do my devotion every day and pray every day. But now I'm coming around again, and it's been a long time since I've done that. Go around over and over and over. But here's the thing, all you got to do to pass the test is make some changes. So what is in your life that you need to make some changes with? Maybe for you, there's some of you just real practically, maybe you need some accountability in your life. And that could look all different ways depending on your struggle. But maybe you need some people that when you start to kind of get off track can kind of say, hey, like just to let you know you're about to lap that circle again. Do you want to go around that circle again for another year, or do you want to go into the promised land? Because they knew how to get there. And they just, again, circling. I kind of spent more time on this point in this service than the other services, but I just really want you to get that. Those of you in here that have just been circling. And again, I want to remind you that, yes, it's some things that you have to change, but you have power. Like, you have things to help you. You've got the word of God. Just like Mr. Galen said, if you're going through some struggles, if there's some things that you don't understand, look to the word of God. There are answers in here. There are solutions in here, how you can get over those things. And then the last one is the worship team's coming. And this is the easiest one, but the hardest one at the same time. It's the test of time. The test of time. Because what do you do when you've done all you can do? What do you do when you've prayed all the prayers? When you've gone to all the church services? When you've called the hotlines? When you've gone to counseling? What do you do when you've done all you can do? That's right. You just keep standing. Because you can look at it two ways. I've done all I can do, and what am I going to do? And I can't figure out anything else to do. Or you can rest and say, I've done all I can do, and now it's up to God. Like where you know I've done it all. Like everything that God has asked of me, I've done it. Now it's up to him. Because it's how you respond. Again, like I said at the beginning of this sermon, that it's not about the answers, it's about your attitude. So how will you respond? Because see, some things get good with time, and some things get bad. Some things get better with time. Some things get bad. Like if I got some milk, if I had a carton of milk up here, and I got up here and I was like, hey guys, this is a 1972 2% milk. Come on, anybody want this right here? Come on. It'd be chunky, it'd be all these nasty colors. It would stink. Like it'd probably make you sick if you drank it. It'd be horrible. Even if you just left it for a couple of days outside. Some of you, your kids have done that. They've left the milk out and you're like, I know, I woke up with that smell. But if I were to do the same thing, maybe not in church, but in some places in the world and in some environments, if I was to get up and I was to talk about a wine that had been sitting and I was like, this is a 19 whatever wine, you know, it's this certain vintage and all this sort of thing, people would literally lose their minds and pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for something that had just been sitting. So what ruins some things makes other things better. And so when you have the test of time in your life, are you going to allow it to ruin you, or are you going to allow it to make you better? The old cliche goes, are you going to get bitter or are you going to get better? What are you going to allow time to do in your life? Are you going to start to get bitter about all the things that God didn't do for you? And I put my trust in God, and he said that he was going to come through, and he said he was going to bring my husband. I'm not even dating anybody. And like, God was going to do all this stuff. Like, I guess it's just never going to happen. I'm giving up on God. I'm never going back to church. I'm never trusting in God again. Like he said he was going to do it, and he hadn't done it yet. And I'm just, Or what if we responded, God, I know you haven't done it yet, but I know that you don't live in my timeline. See, God doesn't live in our timeline. So he may have already done it. He's just waiting for you to catch up. He may have already done it in the future. I know it's hard. I love sci-fi and all those sort of things. But did you know God does not operate in our time zone? God does not operate on our line of time. So God could have already done it in the future, and he's just waiting for the time for you to catch up because he's already got the answer. He's already got the solution. He's just waiting for you to go through the test, to pass the test.